Welcome to the Liverpool Reaction, an American LFC podcast hosted by Salim and Coach Ralph. This podcast is all about Liverpool Football Club from an American perspective. Enjoy the content and please subscribe and follow the show to help grow the podcast.
Hello, welcome everybody to a brand new podcast. This is the Liverpool Reaction, an American LFC podcast. This is episode 1, and we talk about everything Liverpool. I'm joined by my co-host, Coach Ralph. Hi, Coach. How you doing?
Hey, Salim. How are you doing?
Well, after yesterday's result, I'm doing very, very well.
Yeah. Me too.
So, Coach and I talked about the game before the game started. I think we talked Friday or Saturday, and Coach had a weird feeling that this was Chelsea's year. So he is very happy that he was incorrect about his feelings, but also very happy that our Liverpool team won.
Yes, Salim. It's probably the first time in my coaching career that I've made a wrong decision, but very, very happy to have made it. And the feeling I had went long before Liverpool's current injury run. I just had a feeling that this might be the year for Chelsea, that had some good draws in terms of opposition. And whilst they'd struggled in the league, they had looked so much more convincing when playing in cup competitions. So I had that feeling, but as you've noted, it turned out to be incorrect.
Yeah, it was a very interesting game. I did some research just to see the last 5 meetings between Liverpool and Chelsea, and there was 3 0-0s in there. There was a 1-1, which I think was this year in the league, and then there was the 4-1 recently, I think in the last month, when Liverpool beat Chelsea. So we both anticipated a tight game and potentially going in the same way as 2 years ago. And it was just back and forth. I mean, for a 0-0 game, it was a very exciting game.
Yes, I would agree with that. It started off a bit slowly, as you might expect for a final, but then it continued to gather pace as the match evolved. And I think, obviously, Liverpool were missing a lot of their top guns, so I think that was a factor. Chelsea has had more of a settled team of late, although some will say that they missed Thiago Silva at the back. So it's certainly gathered pace, and I think obviously a key moment was the injury to Gravenberch, because all of a sudden Liverpool were already depleted, and Jurgen Klopp had to make a couple of changes early in the game that perhaps were not anticipated, namely pushing Bradley into midfield and bringing on Joe Gomez at full back. And I think that what the effect was that all of a sudden Endo, who I thought had an incredible game, had much more ground to cover. And he did his best, but the longer the game went on, Gallagher was getting a lot of room down the middle of the park. So it was very interesting as to how that changed the whole demeanor of the game, if you will.
Coach, something super interesting happened here in my household. So right when Van Dijk scores the goal in regular time, in about the 60th, I think 58th minute or 60th minute, they're showing the replays. I'm excited, and then my internet goes out. So I'm, looking at my TV. Why is it paused? I'm trying to figure out what happened. So after a couple minutes, I realize it is the internet. So I go, I reset my router, and then I come back, and now it's like, I think I turned it back on, and after I got logged in and everything, the 65th minute, and it's saying 0-0. And I was completely confused on what happened.
Yeah.
And so what was your initial reaction to when they did end up calling Endo offsides because of he impeded Colwell to get in the box to help out with that. I don't know. I'm not even sure I understand the explanation.
Right. Look. First of all, I was down in my man cave watching the game with my son, and of course, when Van Dijk scored, it was a fantastic header. Of course, we're elated, and then all of a sudden, you think the game's going to start, and then they've got VAR check, and I mean, the whole issue of VAR. I mean, everybody's talked about it till sick of it, absolutely sick of it, and we're both looking at each other and going, what is going on here? What is going on here? I mean, because it's not like the Chelsea players are appealing for anything, and so it comes down to this thing about what is the purpose of VAR? Does it help the game? Does it not help the game? And I think we've all got our own opinions. And I think, sadly, VAR, they may as well just have them referee the whole game because it looked like a legitimate goal. And obviously, we've had all of the analysis back. And I don't know. I thought it was a perfectly good goal. And I hear what people are saying and everything, but it's just overanalyzed. If you're going to talk about Colwell marking Van Dijk, he's on the totally wrong side of Van Dijk for a start.
Yeah.
Totally wrong side of Van Dijk. And I can't remember, was it maybe Chilwell? Somebody's behind him, you know.
Yeah, it was Chilwell.
Yeah. Chilwell. And I don't know. I mean, this blocking tactic, which happens a lot. You know, it's kind of been imported over the years from basketball. You know, it's a pretty standard tactic now. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, and I think all teams do it. What annoys me generally about the whole affair is we see games on the TV week in, week out, corner kicks, free kicks, and there are players wrestling each other, and the whole thing is out of control. This, in comparison, was pretty mild, I thought, and I thought it was a legitimate goal, and I think greater attention would be paid to it if it had turned out that Liverpool lost the game, which thankfully, of course, they didn't. But I just see it as another situation where VAR ruins the game. I don't think they were needed to intercede there because I don't think there was a clear and obvious error, which for me is more of a criteria for judging the referee rather than letting the game play as it should. But,
yeah.
My opinion. I know not everybody agrees, and I just feel that it was a legitimate goal and it was called back. But anyway, turned out okay in the end, didn't it?
Yeah. When I was watching the highlights again, just because of that, 7 minutes that I missed, I was watching it, and like you said, I think VAR is more in place. At least this is my idea of it, but more in place for an obvious error that a ref makes, something egregious almost.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that they found something that technically, I guess, due to the laws of the game or the FA in England, was called him offsides, even though he wasn't part of the play, but he impeded somebody else. And then I watched how Endo just went in a straight line back. And it's, from what I saw, he didn't hold Colwell. He just bumped into him.
He stands there. Yeah.
And he should have right to that ground as Colwell should have right to that ground, right?
Exactly. And as I say, this blocking tactic imported from basketball, I mean, it's, it is part of the game. It is part of the game. If he puts his hands up and he holds, like you see that's a lot when there are free kicks and corners where players are literally holding the attackers. And I don't know how you cure it because it's out of control. But that to me seems more of an issue than somebody just standing there to block.
Yeah.
But what do I know? What do I know?
I know. But it came out as a favorable result for us in the 127th or 128th minute, 28th minute in extra time. Van Dijk comes up again.
Right. And thankfully this time there was no blocking. There was nothing to call it back. I mean, because we did hesitate for a second after it went in.
Right.
But no. Another great header, and obviously Van Dijk was a major part of Liverpool's performance. He and Canate at the back were just immense, and they had to be at times because of the way that the midfield was stretched, and it was just fantastic that he was able to get that moment back when he thought he'd won the game, was taken away. He probably couldn't understand it. We couldn't understand it. But then, as I say, things worked out and he got his due reward. So it was a fantastic goal and a great way to win it. And just another example. I mean, I can start giving away my age and my memories of Liverpool, but Liverpool just have a history of last-minute goals, like dramatic goals that win games. And it just seems to be part of the DNA of the club, very much the DNA.
Yeah, it's part of the fiber, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
I think another big talking point was the kids that, came on. Connor Bradley started, but Bobby Clark came in the 72nd, and then McConnell and Dance came in the 87th, and then Kwanzaa came in the 108th minute. Mm-hmm. And you could tell they were nervous. The touch wasn't all there. They were running around. But the fact that they got that kind of exposure to a big game in a highly competed contest for a cup, I thought they played pretty well.
Yes, yeah. August, they did a remarkable job, given the circumstances and also their level of experience. They were very, very inexperienced. And as I said, I was watching the game with my son. And one thing that I said to him, it was during the first half, was having watched how Jurgen Klopp sets up his teams, the way he uses 5 substitutes. And so my comment to my son was, well, I think we better score early because I don't know if he's going to be able to do what he normally does, which is like they play an attacking game, high pressure, high press. And then for a good portion of the second half, then he starts to run the bench and he's got quality players that he brings in. There's a system that they play. Everybody knows what to do. And so he's able to keep that going. And then on Sunday, he has a situation where I believe the stat for McConnell and Dan's was between them when they came on. They'd only had 140 minutes between them of senior football, which is kind of nothing.
Right.
Absolutely zero. So I was surprised that he threw them on so early. But obviously, I don't think that we need to tell Jurgen Klopp what he needs to do. He's the total guy that's in control, and he just had so much faith in them. And I thought they did remarkably well. They played with a lot of energy, and I think that if you're looking at the two teams, a lot of people pointed out quite rightly that Chelsea have a young team, but there's a big difference here still. Chelsea's young team are all these young, highly paid, highly expensive hotshots versus these young lads who've come through the Liverpool academy. Like they're good players, obviously, but they don't have the experience. I mean, like all those Chelsea players had considerably more experience than these young lads that are coming on. I mean, Bobby Clark, for example, I mean, like, he's really impressed me. And I don't know what his overall minutes are of first team football, but I mean, he's not played that much. But I think he's going to be playing a lot more in the future because he's fearless. He's fearless in everything he does, and he's not frightened. He may look like a skinny lad, but he competes, and as we say in England, he gets stuck in.
Right.
And yeah, they did just an incredible job, the young boys.
Yeah, and Connor Bradley, his little tussle with Chilwell, I love that because it showed that he wasn't going to back down. He wasn't, it was symbolic for me that he is here to stay. He is not intimidated. He's not going to let you push him around. And I love the fact that he stood up to Chilwell when Chilwell was annoyed that, he kind of tackled him. But
oh, right. I mean, I think there was a lot of significance to it as well because Chelsea do have a young team. They have more experience than the Liverpool boys. They have more reputation than the Liverpool boys. But Chilwell, and Sterling, and possibly Gallagher are the senior players. And Chilwell, I felt, was visibly rattled in that challenge from Bradley. And I just think that sends a bad message through to his teammates, his younger teammates. He was captain for the day.
Right.
And I thought he looked rattled. But anyway, so you're right about Bradley. Actually, both Bradley and Clark, I think, would have played a lot more this year, but they had injuries earlier in the season because both of them featured in pre-season significantly. And I was very impressed with both in pre-season, watching the games, but then unfortunately picked up injuries. But they're definitely two for the future, for sure.
Yeah, I have a discussion. I had a discussion with a friend because, Trent Alexander-Arnold, whenever he's on the field and he kind of, when we have the ball, he kind of moves into a central role, almost like a double pivot with Endo. And he has a lot of range to go where he wants, and he's a fantastic passer. I mean, he's got a great eye for a pass. And I love the fact that he's in there. And it just got me thinking, is it possible that Bradley can now replace Trent in that role, and Trent can move into a role like Endo? But Endo was a destroyer, like you said, for 60 minutes or so. I mean, he was all over the place. And I don't know if Trent has that in him. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think people are going to speculate on that like quite a lot. I don't know that that's going to happen for the rest of the season with Jurgen Klopp at the helm. But who knows? Whoever takes over the managerial seat at Liverpool. I mean, obviously he's got a lot of players at his command of the quality, and now a lot of young players that have considerable potential. So, I mean, Trent's not that old. What is he, like 24?
Yeah,
like that?
Yeah, I think so.
So, so he's still on the younger side. And I don't think it'll happen this season. Liverpool seem to have a system whereby the right back does that anyway.
Right.
Because even Gomez, if you look back at the match, he pushes into midfield. They had Bradley doing that ahead of him.
Yes.
I mean, because Bradley got forward as he did when he played Chelsea previously and scored against them.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of pushes into the channel, and then he's obviously got some wheels on him. He pushes in, and he can get strikes on goal. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, because I think Trent, unfortunately, is out until the end of the month. And we don't have to go into that right now, but the longer haul is going to be interesting as to how these injuries come back. I mean, because they have a game on Wednesday, for example, and unfortunately, it sounds like Endo has picked up an injury as well. And I'm not sure that he's going to be playing against Southampton. So decisions for the manager.
Yeah, I think Wednesday's game should be similar to when we won the Champions League and then we went off to the Club World Cup. And remember, there was an FA Cup game that like a day before, and let the academy kids play the game. I think they played Aston Villa and lost 5-0 or something, but they were in it. The kids got some exposure, and I think we were in Dubai or something for the Club World Cup.
Yeah. It was a League Cup tie actually, but I don't see it quite happening as that. I mean, obviously Kelleher will play in goal, I would think. Although he could be tempted to give Adrian a run. I think he'll rest Robertson. I think Kwanzaa will come back into the team. Yeah. I think ideally he would like to rest Van Dijk. It'll be interesting to see whether or not he does. I think Gomez will play, but I think the main issues are in midfield. What is he going to do in the midfield? I guess he'll have to push Elliott back into the midfield. And I guess that McAllister will have to play Endo's role. He's not the same style of player, but he played it previously. Don't know who he plays as the third player. And I guess Diaz and Gakpo up front. I don't know who the third striker will be.
No.
So it's going to be very interesting. I guess Clark will probably start, actually, somewhere along the line.
I thought Dan's had a lot of energy also.
Yeah, he certainly put himself about. He had a good header that brought a good save out to the Chelsea keeper. And then there was that incident when there was a scramble on the line. And again, Petrovic in the Chelsea goal did very, very well just to get to the ball before Dan's, because it would have been a dream debut for him if he'd have got his foot to that ball.
That play was interesting because they didn't really review it. I think the ball came from Tsimikas to Elliott, had a header, and then the ball was just kind of hanging around there. And I was hoping that they would kind of show us where the ball was.
Nice.
And now it might have been a foul, but they didn't show where the ball was, because there was one point where he kind of brought it back into the goal. I don't know if it crossed the line totally, but it was... It was close to the line. It was close to the line. Actually, you're right. They haven't showed that incident a lot, but it was a bit of a scramble, and I think the keeper did well in the end. I think the keeper did well, but Dan's was awfully close to getting a goal. I think the Chelsea defender maybe just get slightly ahead of him there, and that gave Petrovic the time to kind of recover and grasp the ball. But anyway, yeah. In the end, I guess they're not reviewing it because other things happened to bring the cup back to Anfield. And the 10th one, I mean... 10th one, yeah. That's incredible. I think I was, again, showing my age here. I went to a couple of League Cup finals before I moved to this country. One was in 78 when they played Forest. And actually, they lost it. The game at Wembley, Forest had to put an 18-year-old goalkeeper in called Chris Woods, who obviously went on to have a great career. And basically, he kept Forest in the game. And then the replay was at Old Trafford, and it was... Actually, it was probably when they needed VAR. This is when VAR could have actually done its job properly, where Forest won it on a penalty where the foul occurred outside the box. And when they showed it back on television, it was clearly outside the box. But where was VAR when you need it? Right. Yeah. And then
I was there a couple of years later when they played West Ham, and I think that was the first time that Liverpool ever won the League Cup. Although it was in a replay, I wasn't at the replay, but I was at the first game against West Ham at Wembley, which was a draw. And then the replay was a fantastic game. It was at Villa Park, and Kenny Dalglish scored one of the best goals that he ever scored for Liverpool. It was a cracking goal where the ball comes over his shoulder and he volleys it right across the goal into the other corner. It was a brilliant goal by Sir Kenny. So memories.
Coach, what other thoughts do you have about the game? Is there anything else that kind of stands out to you as far as a talking point?
I think we've covered most of the main talking points. I think the biggest issue was under duress, that somehow that the Reds got the job done.
Right.
And tremendous credit to them and to the manager and the staff. I guess the question looking forward is how long can they keep this going? So, as I kind of alluded to a little bit before, the team that he puts out on Wednesday, because next Saturday they have to go to Nottingham Forest, and I think Forest will be a team. Whilst they have some very good attacking players, I think it's going to be a team that'll give Liverpool problems, because even if the Reds have the first string out, I think they tend to struggle against teams that sit back and then look to counter. Because as we all know, the way that Liverpool play with the fullbacks high on either side, and now that they have they have both of their legitimate defensive midfielders out in Endo, and Bajcetic has been out for a long time now. It means there's a lot of space that Liverpool can be counted upon, and obviously Forest have players like Elanga, who has pace, and I think that's going to be a difficult game. So will they sacrifice the Southampton game to some degree with their lineup? I think we wait and see on that one. I think we wait and see.
From a coach's perspective, though, would you give that game up, the Wednesday against Southampton? And by give up, I'm saying, it's an academy team, basically.
Prioritize. Yeah. I think prioritized. I mean, look, I know everybody's talking about a quadruple here, but I think the reality is that this could be Liverpool's only trophy this year. And I think the fans have to realise that. Having said that, what do you do? I think you go for everything. So I don't think he's going to turn out an all-academy team against Southampton. I think that's highly unlikely. He took McAllister off early in the game, or early-ish in the game, and my comment at the time was he's managing his minutes. And so I think managing the minutes will be on Klopp's mind. So just say, for example, he brings Quansah in central defence, and then he might share time between Van Dijk and Konate for the other slot. So they manage the minutes. He's got one eye on the weekend. I think Tsimikas will start for Robertson, because Robertson has been out for a considerable length of time. And he's very key to the way that Liverpool played, very key. So I think that's something that's foreseeable. And he may well bring on Robertson, say, for the last 10, 15 minutes. But I have a feeling that he'll start Tsimikas. Gomez will start. I think he's got to play McAllister. Elliott's just a bundle of energy. Very underappreciated in some ways, technically superb player. So I think he'll start. I think Bobby Clark has a chance of his first start. I think he's more or less got to play Gakpo and Diaz.
Yeah.
because it's not just that Nunes is out. It's not just that Salah's out. I mean, they've got a highly talented young forward in Ben Doak, and unfortunately he's injured as well, because I'm sure that Doak would have played.
Right.
So yeah, I think those two play, and I don't. Will he give a player like Jayden Danns a start? I don't know. I mean, if he starts Danns, then he's got to start bringing up other players from the academy, because I think he's going to use the same plan of rotating the 5 subs.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got to.
Yeah.
He's got to at this point. And he's shown that he'll do it in the final. So he's going to do it in an FA Cup 5th round game, for sure.
Yeah, the substitutions was Kwanzaa in for Konate, Bobby Clark in for Connor Bradley, James McConnell in for McAllister, Jayden Danns in for Gakpo, and Robertson was out and Tsimikas came in.
Yeah.
From a tactical standpoint of the game, you mentioned something earlier that really stood out to me, because I thought Endo was fantastic, but you're right. Conor Gallagher could have had a hat trick in the second half. And what do you think happened there tactically?
Well, I think he just had so much ground to cover that I mean, obviously they'd made quite a lot of changes, and it was in the phase of the game where I think he was sending on more substitutes and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, like, Wembley's a huge field. And if he's drawn into a wide area, and then you've got young lads in, I think Clark was in at that point of the game. And so maybe there was just too much of a gap. I haven't looked at it from that point of view, but I'm guessing one thing that's happened a lot, I felt, was when Gomez was on, that he was drawn across the field far too early, instead of passing his man on.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was always a Chelsea player open fairly centrally on the far side. And thankfully they weren't able to find that player, because if they had, like, the lad would have had a clear route through to the goal. But, and I think fatigue is something that you have to consider as well. I mean, the longer that the game goes on, concentration goes, like the legs start to go a little bit. But Endo, as we both said, he was fantastic. And I think he's going to be a huge miss if he's out for a period of time.
But I did some financial, like, transfer stuff because it blows my mind that Enzo Fernandez, Moises Caicedo, and Romeo Lavia, who's has played one game all year. Those guys were $324 million to pick those 3 guys up. And Endo, McAllister, Gravenberch, and Szoboszlai were $186 million. So it's just like, it's pretty wild when you see that. And the fact that we almost went in for Caicedo, well, we did go in for Caicedo, and he chose Chelsea, is almost like a blessing in disguise, because Endo's been fantastic. He's really settled in pretty quickly. And the McAllister for $45 million is a steal. He's world class, I think. I mean, his touch, the way he can control the ball when he's a 6, and the passes he can make out of there. But I like him further up the pitch personally, because I think he's the last.
Well, he offers more.
Yeah, and the last 2 games in the league, he had a goal and 2 assists in a further up the pitch position.
Yeah. I think the plan is basically to play him higher. I think that when Liverpool do go back into the transfer market, that they probably will be looking for a defensive type of midfielder to bring in. And of course, they've got Bajcetic, who's still a teenager, but I believe has got fantastic potential.
Yeah.
But I think the plan is that they do play McAllister up high. I think there's a big contrast between Liverpool's transfer policy and Chelsea's, and
Yeah, big one.
I think everybody and their dog in the media has pointed out that pretty much Chelsea just throw money about without too much thought about how you put the whole thing together. And actually, I feel sorry for Pochettino because I think many of the fans don't appreciate the circumstances he's operating under. It's not like he's come in and he can kind of, okay, this player and that player, I consider them deadwood, because everybody's just been signed. They're not his choices. They're on long-term contracts, like not the normal 3 or 4 years.
I think they're 7 and 8. Yeah.
And so we stuck with them. And I think one thing that was very noticeable when it went into extra time was how much more together the Liverpool squad was in terms of how they were physically together, their body language. Whereas Chelsea just seemed to be more kind of spread apart, more individual. Like there's talent there. I don't think anybody questions that, but I don't think it's going to be easy for any manager to bring that group together. I think it's a very long-term project.
Yeah,
very long-term, and it seems to be so erratic. Are they going to sell a couple? They don't have to go because they're on really long-term contracts. They're highly paid. So I think the owners at Chelsea have kind of caused, like their own problem. And it's a problem for any manager who's there, having to try to resolve it.
Sure. From a tactical standpoint, what is one other thing that stood out to you?
What's on Sunday's game? I don't know there was anything else tactically. Did you have something that you saw that was in mind, Salim?
I just thought the move to bring Bradley I don't even think he was in the midfield. I think he was in the right wing. I think he was in Salah's spot. And he brought Elliott back. I thought that was interesting that he had that much trust in Bradley being able to shift that much farther up the pitch when Gravenberch got hurt. I thought that was really, really interesting. And I was curious why he didn't just move him into midfield and keep Elliott up there. I thought that was fascinating that he trusted Bradley to go up there, because in my opinion, Bradley's more of a defensive-minded or more defensively capable than Elliott. So I would have preferred to see him in the midfield, I would have thought. So that one I found interesting, but it did work out, and Bradley had a chance when they made their way down the left-hand side, which through Lucho, and then Lucho passed one in the box, like I think 8 yards out, just laterally to Bradley, and Bradley got a shot off. I mean, it was blocked. There was three Chelsea players there, but the fact that he reacted so well to being up there was interesting to me.
Right. I would guess possibly the reason why he brought Elliott back was because Elliott is more liable to sit in the midfield. Elliott's not really a runner in the same way as a Bradley. I mean, Bradley, when he gets forward, he makes these surging runs, and it's also an issue with Trent. I think that they both do well when they have space ahead of them or they have a channel that they can run into. And I don't think that Elliott does that. I mean, like, he's got a high work rate, he's moving around a lot, but he doesn't have that ability to make the surging run. And when Bradley does it from the back, the Liverpool system is obviously that the centre-backs cover.
Right.
If he's doing the same thing from midfield, again, that's more of a stress potentially on your pivot, on your number 6, which is Endo. So maybe by moving Elliott into that position, you're actually plugging a gap to some degree.
I see.
That's what I would guess. Oftentimes, when I see Klopp do certain things, and I'm sure that you're the same, you'd like to sit down with him and say, "Why did you do that? What's your thinking there? What's your thinking?" And I think that if you had him one-on-one, that he'd be very amenable to having that kind of conversation with you, because he's that kind of person.
Yeah. The result being 1-0 and a 10th cup. Let's talk about maybe who you think the player of the game was. And I think we can let's select one on each side. I know that's tough, but let's start obviously with the Reds. I think Kelleher had an outstanding game. I thought he was where he needed to be. There were a couple lucky bounces, but that happens in soccer. And the save he had on Cole Palmer was unbelievable. He stuffed Gallagher a couple times when I thought, uh-oh. And I thought he was fantastic. I thought he was the player of the game.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you have to give Kelleher an awful lot of credit, because he deputizes for a goalkeeper that some will say is the best in the world, and obviously there's an opinion to that, but he's certainly up there with the elite of the goalkeeping fraternity, Alisson. So it's always going to be tough coming in for a goalkeeper like that. And I know that, for example, the Luton game where the ball kind of squirmed off his legs and somebody headed it in, some are saying, oh, well, Alisson would have saved that. Mm-hmm. Totally forgetting that Alisson's last game wasn't his best, the Arsenal game.
Right.
So I think goalkeepers are in a situation where their errors are always going to be highlighted, aren't they? But I think Kelleher's got to be in the conversation. I think Van Dijk and Konate've got to be in the conversation. Diaz running up front was tireless. But I just go back to Endo. I just feel that he's really underrated. He's really underrated, and it's taken a lot of Liverpool fans a lot of time to warm to him, because obviously there was the whole Caicedo thing where he chose not to go to Liverpool. He was a big money buy, and then it looks face value as though Liverpool go to the bargain basement. And I think you've got to give a lot of credit to Liverpool's recruitment team, because Endo isn't the bargain basement, maybe in terms of price, but he's a good player. I mean, he's a very, very good player. And I believe in his position, in terms of his stats, he was right at the top of the table when it comes to the Bundesliga in terms of performance. Mm-hmm. So they knew what they were doing. And they had a plan in mind that if the big money move didn't work out, where they were going to go. And so Endo for me was man of the match, and I just hope he's not out for too long.
Yeah, he was really good. I think as fans, we've really grown to appreciate him, and we're almost thankful that Caicedo and Lavia decided to go to Chelsea, because we wouldn't have had this guy. And he's selfless. He plays simple too. He wins the ball. It's one touch and then it's gone. So he kind of gets the ball to the playmakers, which I think is a great quality of understanding what your position is and who you are as a player, and what's expected of you. So I thought, I agree with you. I think he was really good. I have a question about Diaz. He's starting to drive me a little nuts from a standpoint of it almost seems like he's playing around when he's moving forward. Like Salah is very direct. He's looking to shoot. He's looking to create problems and get on goal. And Diaz doesn't do that. And I understand they're different players, but when we had Sadio Mane on the other side, we almost had two guys that were very lethal in front of goal and very hungry to get there. And Diaz, for me, sometimes just doesn't seem like he's really wants to get in there. And he's had a decent season. It's not like he's had a bad season, but when I see the other players that we've had in the past, he's starting to just like squander some chances. I mean, he had a breakaway when he didn't even get a shot off. And I just wanted your take on that.
Yeah. Diaz, if you look at his career, I mean, like, he does score goals. Like, he does score goals, but I agree that he doesn't have that ruthless kind of go-to-goal thing that Sadio Mane had and Mo Salah has. He's just a different style. He's different style. He's a little bit like Núñez in terms of not all his strikes are on target. And I guess he just brings something different to the table. And I think that's one thing that Jurgen Klopp will look at, because he's a little more flamboyant. I don't know if that's the right word. He's a little more flamboyant on the ball. He's unpredictable. I mean, when Mo Salah gets the ball and he runs at the defender, you know what he's going to do next. You know that he's going to try to bring it onto the left foot and curl it. And the defenders know that, but he's still able to get an awful lot of shots away, even though everybody knows what he's going to do. So, so you can't fault that, I guess. I always look at Salah and think, well, sometimes if he just went down the right, and but another story again. I think Diaz, he's a flamboyant player. He's unpredictable. Who knows what he's going to do? The defenders don't know what he's going to do, and that just brings a different element. And he justifies his place because he's passionate, he's hardworking, he's a team player. And these are all things that I think that the manager wants in his players and in his team. So it's not like, okay, he has a run, maybe it doesn't work out, maybe he doesn't get his shot off, but he doesn't, I think there are other players that I could name at other teams who kind of, it doesn't work out, and then they don't get back, they sulk a little bit. Diaz isn't like that. Núñez is the same, Darwin Núñez, he doesn't sulk over his misses. He gets over it, he works hard, he's trying, and these are the qualities that the manager wants in his team and in his squad.
Yeah. From that standpoint, I can understand it. I just wish he was, like you said, a little bit more ruthless in front of goal. And the thing about Darwin is he's always in the right positions. Granted, he's a center forward, and Diaz is out on the left. So even his misses, there's going to be a string of games where the goals are coming. I mean, he's, one game he hit the post 4 times. I mean, that's just unlucky. But there's going to be times where it hits the post and goes in instead of out. And I like that Núñez always seems to be in the right spot. And with Diaz, I wish I saw a little bit more of that because I think he is a good goal scorer, and he could really kind of add more goals to the team.
Diaz is, I suppose, in the modern terminology, is a wide forward. Mm-hmm. He's not a striker. I think Núñez is a striker. Gakpo is he's not a wide player, although I believe he likes to play off the left. But I would probably classify him as more of a striker. Jota's more of a striker. Salah's a wide forward. So I guess Diaz, he's not out and out striker like those other lads that I mentioned.
Right. Okay. Well, I think it's a great win one cup in the bag for the year. It could, like you said, it could be our only one, but it was an exciting game. And on to the next.
Well, it was a great game to start our podcast, because it wasn't just a final win. I think in a funny way, it's an iconic game now because of the personnel that played. And I know that in my lifetime, about the umpteenth time, I'm going to show my age here. I can remember back games like Inter Milan in '65 and Saint Etienne in '77 and the Steven Gerrard Cup final, Istanbul, Barcelona, and this is just another iconic win. It's the game where Liverpool's academy kids basically won the cup.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any other way that you can paint the picture for this one.
I agree. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Well, Coach, it was a good first podcast. It was a great game. I look forward to many more and talking Liverpool with you. And folks, thank you so much for listening. We will be trying to do these weekly and as news pop up. And Coach and I, when we were discussing this project, we said it will be an evolution. This is a work in progress. And bear with us as we continue to get better and make changes to make it more exciting and enjoyable for the fans.
Okay. Thanks, Salim, and a big hello to all those fans out there of Liverpool Football Club.
Yeah, big hello. I hope you guys all celebrated like we did. All right, take care, everybody.
Okay, take care now. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Liverpool Reaction, an American LFC podcast. We'd love to hear from you. Feel free to leave a comment and please give us a 5-star review and any of your honest feedback.